Have you ever wondered what it would be like to leave an established career and join a startup? And not just any startup, but one aiming to differentiate themselves by having a clear social purpose in a sector already full of well established global names. Step forward, Laura Chase, CCO of We Are 8, a social media app for good and disrupting the market. Thank you for joining us in good company today, Laura. It's nice to have you here.
Oh,
Welcome. Hello, how are you?
hi, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. Glad
Well,
to
you're
be here.
very welcome. You're very welcome. And let's find out more about you. So we always ask our guests the same question at the beginning, which is to tell us about yourself in 60 seconds.
Yeah, okay, no pressure. I'm Laura Chase. I am 40 years old. A bit about me, I live in Kent with my lovely husband, my two amazing children. I have a little girl who's 8, going on 18, and a boy who is 6. I actually live in the same place that I grew up, so
Oh,
I'm
nice.
like a homing pigeon. But that does mean I'm close to my family. I'm close to a lot of my friends that I've known since infant school. And I'm very grateful to have so many people so close by that kind of know the bones of me, and I know the bones of them as well. I love musicals. Yeah, if you want to have a good night out with me, let's go and see a show. I really love Indian food. Recently rekindled a love of roller coasters. Want to do them all. Get me there. Interesting fact, when I was on mat leaves, I launched a baby food brand with a
Oh,
really
wow.
good, super smart friend of mine, which we actually managed to get stocked in Sainsbury's.
Oh, nice.
It sadly is no more. I actually went back into work after I had my babies and realised I do actually really love media, but super proud of that achievement nonetheless. I studied marketing at uni, and honestly, I was super obsessed with that degree. I just loved it. I left uni, it was Lancaster Uni I went to on a Friday, and I started working at Hearst on the Monday and stayed there for 17 years. Looking back at my time at Hearst, when I joined, magazines were just everything. I was working on Cosmopolitan, so it was such a privilege and such a joy. But at the time, I was actually working in classified sales. I was selling 3x1 ads in the back of Cosmo to clairvoyants, to tarot card readers, to sex toy companies. Had the best fun. And then, fast forward 17 years, and I was heading up the partnerships team over there. Summer 2021, big moment in my life was a mutual friend introduced me to Sue Fennessy, who was just the most brilliantly impressive woman I'd ever met. And she spoke to me for about 30 minutes about We Are 8 and what she'd built and what she was doing. And 10 minutes down, I was all in. So a few things to know about me at work. Give me a problem, I'm going to solve it. I really love figuring things out. I love decks. Like not many people can say that, but I really love doing a deck. And I'm a great snack buyer. I think my team would all agree. I'm not sure if that was 60 seconds, but there's some things
No,
to know.
but what an intro, because we definitely have learnt your life story, I would think.
There we go.
And you've been, and what you've done in that time is just incredible, really. From starting up a baby food brand to 17-year career in one company, and then moving into a startup, which we've briefly talked about. My next question is to sort of ask you about We Are 8, of the offices you're which currently placed in, and so tell us a bit about it. Give us the headlines. What can we know? What can we learn from you about We Are 8?
Yeah. I mean, when we think about social media as it stands right now, and believe me, I do know there are some good things and it serves some purpose in the world, but I do think the technology that's been built to do those good things, to connect us, to bring us joy, to inspire us, that technology is harming us. It's doing a lot of damage. It's damaging people's mental health. We know it's doing that. It's damaging the planet and it's damaging democracy. And I look at my 2 little kids every day and I think we all deserve better. Future generations deserve better. And if you're thinking about what would that perfect social media platform look like, well, you'd want somewhere that looked after people's mental health, that kind of put us first and that really fought for what's right rather than fueled stuff that isn't right. And you'd want somewhere where you could show up as yourself without fear of hate. And you'd want somewhere where absolutely everyone felt seen, heard, valued, respected. So that's what Sue and our amazing tech team over in Greece have been working so hard to build, something that is healthier, fairer, better for the world and everyone in it. And they've done such an amazing job. So we talk about We Are Eight as social media for the love of people and our planet. So that the headlines are, we don't tolerate hate, and there's some amazingly sophisticated verification processes involved that really support us with that. We are better for the planet. Our ad model eliminates e-waste. We invest in climate solutions every time an ad is watched. We get ad revenue back into people's wallets by valuing them for their time. So every time you watch an advert on We Are Eight, you get a little micropayment, which you can keep or pay forward to charity. We are all about celebrating the good in life, uniting people rather than dividing us. And this piece is really critical, because to really fly and succeed as we are at the moment, and to continue on that road, we need to get great results for brands and for advertisers. And we are absolutely delivering on that front as well. So the big piece in the middle of is sharing of ad revenue. 130 billion went to Meta in 2020 alone. And imagine a world where 60% of that is shared with people, charities, and the planet. And that's what we have on We Are Eight. So a social media ecosystem that's built to make everyone win. So yeah, that's your whistle stop tour.
And it's still growing, isn't it? It's because it started in, was it 2020?
Yeah, so we launched. I mean, Sue's been working on it for 8 years. She launched it over in the States. She worked with behavioral scientists for a long, long time. We launched really. I mean, we started to switch TV on with our partners over at Channel 4 and things in the UK back in April 2022. Australia was August 2022, and then US has been August this year, and then big plans for next year through to India and Europe, and world domination, obviously.
Yeah. All right. Well, it sounds amazing, and one of the things that's clear is the purpose of We Are Eight, and I suppose one of the things that we try to do with this podcast is to kind of allow listeners and watchers to kind of reflect on where they find themselves or organizations that they're in, and potentially, pluck up the courage to make changes happen within their organizations. And one of the things that, again, is super, super clear about We Are Eight is the purpose. So what advice can you give that and how important is purpose within an organization, and how can you make sure that activities that are done are aligned with the organization's core values? How can organizations sort of create that positive impact?
Yeah, I mean, purpose is an interesting word, isn't it? I'd like when I was thinking about this session, I looked at what the word purpose actually means, and obviously it's what it came back with was the reason something is created or exists, and a person's sense of resolve and determination. And I kind of think that's why a lot of people are a bit lost in the world, because purpose, you need purpose, don't you? Why am I here? What am I doing? So, I mean, it's always been massively important to me as an individual, and I feel like I've finally found my purpose at the age of kind of 39 or however old I was when I met Sue. And I feel like everything I did up until that point was kind of leading me here. And this is why I'm here. And, that having that determination each and every day to make change in the world just does great things for a business and a culture and all the people in it. And when I was at Hearst, one of the proudest, obviously I had many glamorous years of doing lots of lovely things working at Cosmo, but one of the things I look back on at my 17 years there with the most pride was creating a division of the business called Hearst Purpose, which worked with a wonderful colleague to do that. And we brought together all of the important work that all of our magazines were doing across the business on sustainability, on DE&I, on mental health. And we made them bigger. We got investment and support from brands to do more in those spaces. And, going into work every day thinking, well, my work can actually help others, and I work in commercial, I work in ad sales, really, but actually, isn't it amazing that we can do things that are really positive in this space, and we can help people, and we can use some of this money out there to make change. So doing that hurt. I kind of knew then, like, the next step I make kind of career wise, it's got to be something connected to that, because it just brought me so much pride. And I just get up in the morning with different levels of determination, and I see that through all of my team as well. Like, we're brought together by this kind of greater good, which is to transform social media and get loads and loads of ad revenue back to the places that need it most. But one part of your question was, how do, as an organization, you align purpose with everything you do, all of the activities? And it's you've got to kind of, walk the walk as well as talk the talk, haven't you? And it does have to live and breathe through everything. If sustainability is important, if kindness is important, if mental health is important, you have to make sure your team feel that every single day in the business as well as people on the actual app, through the content. So we think about it with everything we do, the suppliers that we work with, the office environment that we create, how we want people to go about their day-to-day job, how we want people to engage with our own clients. And I think the thing that stood out for me is the network that you build and grow when you're in this space is just phenomenal. The businesses and the people that you get exposed to, who, we're all doing similar things, and we've all got the same purpose, which is to help save the planet and all of these things. And because you can just learn so much from people around you as well. So sometimes I think purpose just feels like a huge word and a massive thing. But when you realize that there's a lot of people and a lot of businesses all working towards the same goal, and you can come together and do things together and support each other with it, then it doesn't feel quite so big and so intimidating, if that makes sense.
For sure. And one of the things that I was kind of picked up on there about, and one thing that's interesting is that, with a startup that was in, 2020, I think it's probably easier to set out with those clear purpose goals.
Yeah.
I think the challenge lies with organizations that have existed for a long, long, long time and haven't necessarily got the same kind of historic goals to look after the planet, to look after the people, and so on. And so, therein lies the challenge. And I wonder if, I'm not an expert personally, but I wonder if starting small, is a way to do that, and start with looking at addressing one particular. I noticed that We Are 8 are closely connected with the Sustainable Development Goals, and I think that that's a really nice way of getting into that, because with the Sustainable Development Goals there are 17, and you can start with just focusing on just one, and then gradually build up from there. And that might be something that you do within a team. It might be setting out, just looking at the purpose of an individual team within an organization, and then you can start to kind of weave in why that team exists for the wider organization, and then why that organization exists for and its impact on the planet. I think that's so that well, it sounds easy when you kind of say it, but it's not always easy. But I wonder if that's a good place to start.
Yeah, I totally I sometimes, you think of these giant companies who have, been well established for so many years, and it's hard to undo things, isn't it? Whereas what we've been able to do is look at everything that feels broken, and remodel it, rewire it, reshape it, and learn from, I guess, other people's, well, not other people's, but where things have perhaps fallen down and not been as successful as they could have been for, the sustainability or whatever the impact area is, and learn from it and build something that's as fit for purpose as we can possibly make it.
Yeah. That learning is so crucial, isn't it? And
Mm,
not learning necessarily from mistakes, but learning and developing, which is essentially
yeah,
our business. But
yeah,
it's always opportunities. I think that was it. It's reframing mistakes to opportunities, isn't it?
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and
completely.
I'm curious to kind of, I mean, you've kind of spoken a little bit about your move from um, from Hearst to We Are Eight, because you were at
Mm,
Hearst for 17 years?
yeah.
And so tell us about, I mean, it must, I suppose with We Are Eight being a social media app in its infancy, in an already diluted market,
Mm,
what was it that kind of, I mean, you said you were sold when you met the CEO.
yeah.
What was it that made you go, right, okay, you were instantly sold, but to make that leap must have been quite a thing to do, was it?
Mm, yeah. Weirdly, it didn't really feel like it at the time. But sometimes I do look back and I think, God, that really was quite, and I had two really young, I mean, they're
Yeah,
still young kids at the time, but I just thought, I've got to do this.
yeah.
I just really felt compelled, like, and bought into the mission completely. And Sue's background is just so impressive.
Mm,
She was a serial tech entrepreneur, first business at 21, sold it to Omnicom. She built SMI, which is Standard Media Index, the world's biggest media data aggregation business. So her track record is just absolutely phenomenal. And you kind of think, well, if anyone is going to do this, then it's Sue.
yeah,
And I have this amazing opportunity here, which I will regret for the rest of my life if I don't jump in and be part of something as special as this. And I over my career, I've worked with a lot of amazing people, and very quickly I got a great team around me because they felt exactly the same as me.
mm,
And I had, I made 4 quite senior hires quite quickly who are with me now and do brilliant work every day and give it 100%. And, we got the agencies on board quickly and the brands started to come. And, soon it just feels like, well, this was fate. This was kind of meant to happen. But yeah, everything she said, I thought, God, she's picked up on every challenge in the industry because I was in it. I was in the Hearst.
yeah,
I was hearing everything. I was seeing everything. I knew what the problems were, and I was like, God, she's fixed them all. She has genuinely fixed them
yeah,
all.
yeah,
So yeah, I had to, and it was an amazing decision because I have learned so much. And I do look back and I think, God, I wish I'd taken a few more risks throughout my career. But I think after 17 years in one place, I knew the bones of that business, and that's actually really served me quite well in this role.
yeah.
But yeah,
Well, I mean, people, particularly in this country, people are often put off by change. And I
yeah,
suppose it's not unique to this country, but people can be. And stepping outside of their comfort zone is definitely, but it sounds like you've kind of nailed it, really, because you've
yeah,
kind of gone from, and especially as you said, with a young family, like
mm,
to kind of make that leap. But it's obviously paid off, so
mm,
it's definitely been worth it. And
mm,
you're now working for an organization that, if that can ultimately help and build a better future for your young children, you're going to be so motivated to do that, aren't you?
mm.
So to kind of, although it might have felt like a big leap at 17 years to change, I think it was probably one of the best things. It certainly sounds like it's one of the best
Yeah.
things you've ever done.
It really was, and I knew I needed a change anyway.
Yeah,
I really did know that. I had the best experience at Hearst. This is, yeah, I needed something different
mm,
and new. And yeah, you think kind of like what will be, what's my mark on the world? And I mean, this definitely feels like this is the place where we can do something really, really quite special.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it. It certainly sounds like it. I wanted to also ask about like the culture of where you are and where you have been, and because having that organizational culture is the it can be stronger in some organizations than others. What do you think is, well, first of all, what's the culture like at We Are Eight, and what do you think is, what could other people learn if it's working successfully? What could other people learn from We Are Eight's kind of culture, and how can you? What I suppose what I'm asking is, what would your advice be for building a really strong culture within another organization?
Yeah, I think one of the things that feels really different here is that purpose and that mission is so clear. Like, we all know what the big goal is, and we all know what our role is in achieving that big goal. So we talk about it all the time, like what we're here to achieve. And on those hard days, it really helps recenter us and remind us of the bigger picture, but also just to think back on how far we've come as well. And for me, kind of culturally, I'll just look after each other.
Yeah.
Like, have people's back like that. I'm a firm believer in that. When I look back over some of the great bosses I've had and some of the ones that I didn't find quite as good, it's always people that are there for you and willing you on and wanting you to succeed and wanting to celebrate you and wanting to support you, and not just bosses but also colleagues. So knowing what that big vision is, being very clear on that, coming back to it all the time, which Sue is amazing at doing. And we work with a lot of different charities, and there's so much special stuff going on each day. So sometimes it's just taking a breath and reminding ourselves of what we're here to do and what we've achieved so far. And yeah, as I said, like, just look after each other and support each other.
Yeah, putting that human first. It's
Yeah.
it's becoming massive. It's getting bigger and bigger in many ways. That kind of human-centered organizations is definitely. I think it's kind of, and particularly, and that's really refreshing to hear, particularly in the tech industry, because the tech industry is often renowned for not being necessarily human focused. But I guess unless you're in social media, but as we've already pointed out, not all social media share the same values and same purpose. So yeah, it's I think that's really refreshing to hear. And again, that I mean, as you can see by our banner there, we're all about the human first, and we it sounds like we're very similar at both Impact and We Are Eight for putting that human first and how it and looking after each other. It's so key to our organization, and I think it's one of the reasons I've been here as long as I have. So it's a true testament to a good place to work, I would say. And I guess I wanted to also ask about you mentioned earlier on about the partners that We Are Eight work with alongside, and you've already kind of got the backing of some big influencers and kind of global household names. Impact did some research last year, and when it came to looking at what's the biggest driver of people retention and engagement, the kind of came back with trust as being that key element. What advice would you give to leaders to kind of help build trust in an emerging or changing landscape?
Yeah, I guess there's trust internally and there's trust externally, isn't
For sure,
there?
yeah.
And I in every instance, just think about how you're showing up, where you're showing up, who you're showing up with, because it's not just about you, is it? It's about like you just said, the partners that you work with, and where we've got some amazing that we've just announced a partnership with BBC Studios. We've got BBC Earth. Have just set up their profile on the app. We have a partnership with Channel 4. We're working with The Independent. We're working with Pink News. So we've got, and also brilliant people like Rio Ferdinand and all sorts of wonderful names who are with us, but are partners that, again, society probably you'd hope would see as trustworthy partners. But it's about transparency and authenticity as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Being honest, staying true to your beliefs. One of my pet hates in life in general is just saying you're going to do something and not doing it, and I can't stand that.
Yeah.
And sometimes, there might be a reason, but just explain why. So one of my big things is just if I'm going to promise I'm going to send you something by a set time, or I'm going to share something with you, I will always do it. And I think the industry is finding We Are Eight really quite refreshing, I think, because there's not a lot of trust for social media platforms. Let's be honest, other social media platforms out there for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But for us, and for me and my team, being able to come in and flip that and give marketeers and agencies and people confidence that there is something that has their back, that will put them first, that honesty is a core value of ours. I think it's been really, really refreshing for people.
Well, and as you kind of get those names, you're greenwashing was a term that came to my mind when you were talking there about authenticity and saying what you do. And there is a lot of greenwashing around. We've had other episodes where we've talked a lot about greenwashing, or a lot, and utilizing it for marketing, whether it's to kind of attract employment, or for customers and stuff. And I think people are seeing through it a lot more now. So I think that it sounds like We Are Eight is going to be a good way to kind of filter out that kind of behavior, I would think. So if you're kind of getting people like Rio Ferdinand on board, then other people are going to see that, and they're going to follow suit, aren't they? They're going to if they share values, then you're certainly going to see a massive influx in. And how do you mitigate it when it's not true to word? How do I noticed that one of the things that we are against is things like trolling and negativity and comments and things like that. How is that mitigated? How do you control that?
Yeah, the verification process we've put in place is helping us alongside AI. So when you set up an account on We Are Eight, you can only verify your account with a mobile number, not an email address. So you can only have one account, and we know who each account is linked to. So you can't have an account for your dog and your living room and
okay.
Just one, and we know who each one is. And then once you've set up that account, the way the product works, there's two different feeds. So there's a global premium content feed, and then there's a private friends feed. So as soon as you've got an account, you can start connecting with your friends and posting content on your friends feed. If you are connected to someone who is trolling you or writing unkind comments under your post, just if you defriend them, they will not ever be able to do that again. But also please report them, and they will be removed from the platform. If you want to be a creator, and that's where you post on the public global content feed, you then have to go through a second layer of verification, which involves us basically sense checking how you're showing up elsewhere. So that part enables us to filter out hateful, harmful content. But yeah, to stop the comments, because it's just awful what you see in other places. So community reporting, AI, and zero tolerance. So you will be removed. And obviously one of the big incentives on We Are Eight is you can watch ads and earn money in a wallet, which you can't do on any other social platform. So, you will get kicked off and you won't be able to do that. So we feel that there's a lot of other platforms that you can go and do that if you really want. But here it's not welcome. And the verification process, the reporting and the AI is working. There are things that slip through, but we are on it as quickly as we possibly can.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I have downloaded it. I have started. I'm not a massive social media user, being
Mm,
totally honest.
mm,
But it was certainly interesting to learn about the differences.
yeah,
Yeah, so I shall definitely explore more. And I think it's nice to,
yeah,
as you say, to have that two separate feeds that you can have just for friends and family, and then maybe something that you'd be happy to have more public. But yeah,
yeah.
no, I'm certainly going to be looking into it more.
Yeah,
Um,
and not that constant interruption with ads in either of those feeds as well, because you've got the
yeah,
choice if you want to watch ads, and then when you do, there's this ripple of goodness with money to you, to charity, to the planet.
yeah,
So the ad
yeah.
piece doesn't feel disruptive, doesn't feel intrusive. It feels good and positive and
Yeah,
healthy.
it's having a knock-on effect. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool.
Mm.
I would like to ask you a slightly more personal question in that, and it's more directed at you.
Okay.
It's what would you say is the best thing you're doing as a leader right now?
Yeah, when I'm thinking about what will keep my team happy, motivated, inspired, it's always positive progress feels really good for them, like outside of their own jobs, but what else is happening across the business. So I've worked really hard on a lot of these collaborations which we're doing with other media owners. We're out in market with BBC Studios at the moment, which gives my team an immense sense of pride,
Mm,
where they can actually start working closely with the BBC, and they can start working closely with the Independent, and you can really see their own personal growth and enjoyment by just building out what we do. But we've just gone through performance reviews on our side, and I think that process is a really good one, because it kind of just brings you back to thinking about every single person as an individual. And obviously I have lots of one-to-ones and all those things, but sometimes it's that process of taking stock and just realigning on what that person's loving, what they're finding challenging, where they want to go next, where they want to learn. Like for me is such a valuable process that I really enjoy. So we did that recently, and what I'm really enjoying is seeing some of the conversations that we had and some of the goals that we built in and some of the workflows come to fruition.
mhm.
Because you really see people come alive when they're pushed outside of their comfort zone, when they're stretched, when they're given new opportunities. So that's probably one of the things that I'm really liking at the moment, seeing certain people just really go some. Yeah.
Yeah, it must bring you an enormous sense of pride as well when you do see people overcoming challenges and and
Yeah.
and
I
working towards those things.
I think that's the good thing about being in a company of this size and at this point in time as well, because opportunities are endless.
Yeah,
And Sue's really amazing. If you've got a great idea, like, go for it. It doesn't matter if it's not in your specific remit. And sometimes, when you work in huge companies, you just can't do that.
mm,
Um, but here, the world's your oyster. Like, literally, the world's your oyster. So I love putting that kind of fire in people's bellies and giving them a sense of just think outside the box and give me brilliant ideas, and let's think about new research or new partners, and then let's go and do it. And watching them go and do it is really like a real privilege.
well, you can see it in your face how
Mm,
passionately you do feel about that,
mm.
and kind of putting people first, and seeing how they grow and develop. You can, yeah, it's
Mm.
just it's radiating from you, I think,
Uh,
if anything. Um,
well, I'm very lucky. I've got an
yeah,
amazing team.
I know it certainly sounds it, and it certainly
Mm,
sounds like a cool company to work for sure.
mm, mm,
We've reached our last question, which
mm.
has gone very, very fast, hasn't it?
It
Well, it
has.
certainly feels like it. And it's the same question that we ask all of our guests on this podcast, which is, if you were starting your career again, going right back to the beginning, looking back, what's the best piece of advice you'd give your younger self?
Yeah, I think I'd probably reference this, but I do wish I had pushed myself out of my comfort zone a bit more, sought out things that felt slightly more uncomfortable, perhaps a bit more unfamiliar to
Mm,
me. because I can see now, like, the biggest learnings and the biggest lessons are found in these places. So, but as I said, I believe everything that's happened. I'm a big believer in fate. I believe that everything has happened for a reason, and I'm here with the experience I've got right now at this moment in time for a reason. But yeah, I wish I was a bit braver every once in a while.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because from my experience so far in this last half an hour, I would say that you have been brave. I mean, to start up a baby food brand whilst on maternity leave, those sorts of things do take courage, and they do take to take a step away from a 17-year career in one company. That is a brave move. So I would think that actually, and as you've already alluded to, you're a big believer in fate. Well, maybe you're stepping out of your comfort zone more than you think. But
maybe my kids brought it out in me. Maybe just having those babies, I think maybe the hormones, I don't know, maybe that was the shift I needed to.
Yeah. Well, the benefit of one of the benefits of that question is that you can always take it and potentially apply it from now. So if there's things that you think you're not doing that you could be, then you could always do it from now, couldn't you? So so there you go. Well, thank you ever so much for joining me, Laura. It's been a fascinating conversation, and I am very interested to look into We Are Eight a lot more than I currently have. So I shall be doing that for absolutely. So that just leaves me to end today's podcast by saying thank you ever so much again to Laura Chase for joining me today. And if you'd like to find out any more about Impact or We Are Eight, or if you'd like to connect with either of us on LinkedIn, then all of the links that you need are in the description of this episode. So thanks again to Laura, and until the next time, take care. Hey, you're on my mind.